Hello and welcome to Film Companion South. In this episode, we're going to be talking about Joji, which is just about as huge as a movie can get. It's directed by Dileesh Pothan. It has Fahadh Faasil. The director of photography is Shaiju Khalid. The music is by Justin Verghese, who contributes a beautifully melancholic score. It's played once on the orchestra and then again on the piano. It's just absolutely wonderful and it underlines the melancholy in this movie. But even huger than that are the writers involved. The writer of the movie is Syam Pushkaran, and the writer of the play the movie is based on, which is Macbeth, is of course William Shakespeare. Now, Macbeth is one of my favorite Shakespearean plays because it's one of his most human plays. It shows what happens when a good man is tempted by greed and ambition and he turns bad. And sometimes it's easy to project yourself into this character, into Macbeth, and say, if I were in his position, would I do these things? If I were promised all these great things, would I do these things or would I still retain my innate goodness? It's a very, very beautiful question that Macbeth poses in the guise of an action adventure. And when other filmmakers made Macbeth, for example, Vishal Bharadwaj made Makbul, Akira Kurosawa made Throne of Blood, which had that wonderful, wonderful shot of that arrow going through Toshiro Mifune's neck. When these filmmakers made Macbeth, they stuck closely to the plot. They basically said, okay, I have the witches, I'm going to make an equivalent for the witches. I have Lady Macbeth, I'm going to make an equivalent for Lady Macbeth, and so on and so forth. Now, one of the most fascinating things about Joji is that it has these equivalents. It has the Banquo character in the form of an elder brother, it has the Macduff character in the form of a nephew, but it is not really the kind of adaptation where everything has an equivalent and there is this one-to-one thing that you can map and say this is this and this is this and this is the Burnham Wood coming, and it's not like that at all. The story centers on a father who's kind of on his deathbed and he's got a lot of money and all his children keep talking about wealth. And I was reminded of another famous, very classic play, Tennessee Williams' Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, where pretty much the same thing happens. But this father, this strong father, as strong as the father in Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, is actually physically strong. He's like not just mentally strong, but like the first scene we see him, he's doing this exercise, this insanely tough exercise. He's got a very, very fit body, and he is like the kind of guy who can crush your chest just because he thinks you've stolen his money, which he does to Joji, the Fahadh Faasil character. Now, there is a beautiful physical demarcation between these two characters because P and Sunny, the father, is this huge man, and Fahad has, I think, lost weight for this movie, or maybe he's just lost weight in general, but he's always in tees and his capri pants, and he looks like a kid. And the contrast between them is like amazing because you know that they're not equals, and you get the feeling of one being a tyrant and one being an oppressed person. So instead of being motivated by greed and ambition, which is certainly there in this movie, this Macbeth is also motivated by the fact that he just wants to get even with this kind of a father who's been suppressing him all his life. There are many, many, many lovely touches in the movie. For example, take the Lady Macbeth character. She's played by Unnimaya Prasad, and she is not the wife, she's the sister in law, and she's not an active encourager of Macbeth's actions, but more like a passive observer of what he does. Here's another lovely touch. The film actually plays like a criminal who's committed one criminal act and then has to keep committing other criminal acts in order to hide that first crime. And that is actually what Macbeth is if you take away all the supernatural elements and other kinds of things. Here's another lovely touch, the presence of Christianity and the importance of society in this whole thing, which was not really explored in either the Shakespeare play or any of the other adaptations. But despite all these things, the film doesn't really come together as well as you'd like. Now, some films are so organically marvelous, like Dileesh's own two films, Thondimudalam Sakshiyam and Maheshinte Pratikaram, that while seeing them your mind is just going kaching masterpiece, kaching masterpiece. You just like every single thing is clicking and working. Here you sense the effort to create a masterpiece as opposed to it being an organic masterpiece. There is a very, very there's a conscious decision taken at every space to kind of make it breathe a little more than the scene needs to. And there are so many things that are done here that make you feel that they wanted this to be a classic instead of just trying to tell a story and hoping that it turns out to be a classic. There are many characters, and their various psychological motivations don't exactly mesh or come together, or sometimes don't even feel very different. So, while I admired the fact that this film was trying to do something so different with Macbeth, I was always kept at an arm's length. I never made it into the movie. The is it worth watching question about Joji is very easy to answer because it has all these great performances by Fahadh Faasil, by Unnimaya Prasad, by everybody else. And especially if you know Macbeth, the contrasts are wonderful to see what's happening here versus what's happening there. But it's a standalone film. I miss the Fahadh Faasil and Dileesh Pothan combination that gave us Thondi Muthalu Sakshiyam and Maheshinte Pratikaram. So that's it about Joji. If you like this video, do subscribe to Film Companion South and see you soon at the movies.